When was the last time you had a deep conversation about dating, finding a job, reaching our goals, and all the other intricate areas that make up our 20s? Every episode, I talk about these topics with real young adults who are living and learning along with the rest of us. If you want to hear how your peers are dealing with and conquering these areas of life, tune in. This is Building the Blueprint. Cameron, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm super happy to be here.
Tell us a little about yourself.
My name is Cameron. I'm from Orange County. I'm 20 years old. Currently a junior at the University of Oregon studying human physiology. Hoping to be a PA one day.
Cameron and I have been roommates for 2 years now. We are currently on the Oregon coast, if you couldn't tell, not the normal office space.
So beautiful here.
So pretty.
This rock in the background is just so majestic.
So excited to be here. So excited to have you on.
Me
I've
too.
known you for 3 years now,
3
and I've
years.
learned so much from you. And
Likewise.
where we met was Greek life.
Greek life, absolutely.
We're in the same fraternity. We're in Beta Theta Pi. Greek life has a lot of assumptions around it, has a lot of opinions around it. It's a hot
Absolutely.
topic all the time.
Always a hot topic.
Why do you think someone should join Greek life? Obviously, we joined it. We had our reasons. What do you think?
Absolutely. I feel like there is a huge stigma around it that people think it's like this negative thing. Like you join a fraternity, like you get hazed, you get pushed down by your brothers, and not much comes out of it other than people think it's just partying. But when I joined a fraternity, I was very skeptical about it. But every single part of the pledge process was just so positive, and it didn't bring me down. Like I was able to make so many new friends and brothers and feel like I had a home away from home. And I think that's a huge part of going to a big university, is that a lot of people are moving away from their family and friends that they grew up with all their life. And they're experiencing this absolutely new thing. And it's super hard, but when you have a community of people who are experiencing the same thing, it's really nice and comforting. And there's so many positives that just outweigh any cons that like people might think there might be.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I came into college, had like 3 friends, joined a fraternity, and then all of a sudden I have 100 friends.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think there's the business side, which is fine, but I really do think it's like the social aspect of like you come to college and you make 100 friends.
Yeah.
And they've taken the classes you've taken.
Yep, exactly.
You get pushed outside your comfort zone.
Mhm.
And I don't just mean like you're getting hazed. I mean like you're meeting new people. You're going to events you wouldn't normally go to.
Yeah.
And like
It opens you up for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
One of the hard parts about it though is rushing. At least I know for me, like when you go to rush, you show up and like if you're a guy at least, like you have to really, it's like a networking event.
Yeah.
Right? Like most events, they're not going out of the way to talk to you, like the active brothers.
Yeah.
You have to tap them on the shoulder. You have to be personable.
Yeah.
Like what tips you have for someone who's about to start rushing, maybe in the spring or next year in the fall?
Absolutely. I'd say the most important part is to be yourself. Ultimately, a fraternity is looking for you. Obviously, there's a mutual relationship in that. You want to join a fraternity, but the fraternity is wanting you. So be yourself. And that's the best thing I think you can do, because when someone's rushing, it's a little nerve-wracking, but they want to see your true colors and see if you belong in that fraternity. I was super nervous when I was rushing
Same.
my freshman year. I guess when we were both rushing. Little background, we're in the same pledge class, so it's super awesome. But I feel like talk to as many people as you can. Also, get to know other people that are rushing. You guys are in this together. Like, you guys want the same things. And ultimately, if you get a bid from that fraternity and join, you're going to be with the same people that are going to be at that rush event. And yeah, just be super friendly, super social. And that's really all you can do.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point I think some people get bids and then they're like, okay, I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
I know I did that. But like you really should come back and like see who else got bids, because people who do drop and don't join the fraternity often is like, oh, I didn't like the people in my pledge class. Like, because those are people you're going to spend the most time with and be the closest with for not just college, but the rest of your life. And so you're definitely right. And you just have to be sociable. Like it's really awkward. Like I remember I would do laps around the house. I like pretend like I'm going somewhere because there's no one to talk to. Because there's like 3 people rushing and then 1 brother.
Yeah.
So that's definitely tough.
It is tough.
It's as simple as like the people who are confident enough or like brave enough to go up to people and just be like, hey, I'm Nick. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
and you do that for 20 brothers, 30 brothers, like it's a lot.
It's a lot.
But like if you want to guarantee you're in, like,
you got to put in the effort.
It's not complicated. It's just hard.
It's just hard.
Yeah.
But it's a super fun experience.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest misconception about Greek life is?
That's a great question.
I can go while you think.
You go. I want to hear your opinion too.
I think the biggest misconception is that everyone's the same. I think everyone that gets drawn to it is maybe for similar reasons, like, oh, they want to make friends. They heard it's the cool thing to do, or like they're just doing it because like they think they should.
Yeah.
But I think once you get into the fraternity sorority, you realize how different everybody is. Like not everyone's Chads. You have your chemistry majors, you have your business majors, you have your nerds and you have your jocks.
Yeah.
And even though maybe not everyone knows why they're rushing or they're rushing for the same stereotypical reasons, like once you get in, everyone is way more diverse than you think.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. I thought that like everyone in a fraternity was just like super douchey and social, and like it's definitely not like that. Maybe if you're rushing in Alabama, an SEC school, like where the fraternities are like super crazy.
West Coast is pretty chill.
West Coast is very chill. Yeah, I definitely totally agree with that. I feel like a lot of people assume that they may not fit in, but most everyone does. And you don't know until you try.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
How did you figure out beta was the right one for you?
Honestly, when I rushed all term of freshman year, I suicide rushed, which means I only rushed one fraternity. I actually had a bunch of Zoom calls over the summer before school. They were telling me a lot about what beta had to offer, and I was super intrigued. I think my mistake was only rushing one fraternity, but I'm really happy with where I am in beta. It's just a home away from home. Whenever I feel sad or like I'm homesick or stressed about life in general, there's so many people that I can just go up and talk to, and they relate because everyone's coming from a bunch of different places with different backgrounds. We all need each other. And so I feel like beta offers that sense of community, and I feel really comfortable with everyone.
Yeah. How do you recommend someone finds their beta, right? Like, can you really figure it out in rush? Is that something where you have to decide while you're pledging?
Not necessarily. That's why it's really important to rush multiple fraternities, because a lot of fraternities are different and they'll show you different things. It's really important to find your place. If you don't like it, you can always drop out of fraternity and think about rushing again. But I feel like it's where you have a sense of belonging and true friendship and brotherhood. And you don't feel like you have to put up a different face around someone. Like you can be yourself. And
yeah.
I
think for people really nervous too, just rush in the spring.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely times where you're at rush and like people do put up a bit of a front.
Yeah.
Especially the guys in the fraternity.
Yeah.
And if you wait till spring, I mean, I went fall because like I was like, I'm doing it. Like I'm diving in. But if you're nervous about it, like you can kind of wait and then like see, all right, what are my friends in this fraternity like? What are my friends in that fraternity like? Yeah. And decide, okay, I like these people more. I vibe with these people more. That's who I want to be around. Yeah. That's the fraternity for me.
Totally.
That's definitely how it worked out for a lot of people that I know.
A lot of fraternities, I think almost all fraternities have spring rush for that, because when you're coming into your first term of college, you have no idea what life's going to be like. And some people are really hesitant and like really unsure if the fraternity thing is for them, or they can handle, being a new college student, living by themselves, like, and on top of that, like balancing pledging, and it's tough. So I feel like spring term or winter term, because University of Oregon is on the quarter system. So
yeah, we're weird.
Yeah, we're really weird, actually. People can rush in the winter and spring, depending on the fraternity, but it really gives opportunities for people who are unsure about if they belong or if they can handle pledging on top of their daily life.
I want to transition us to a new topic, which I'm really excited to talk about because you're actually the one who wanted to talk about this, which is failure.
Failure.
Why is failure so important, and why do you want to talk about it?
I love this topic because a lot of people think failure is bad. Failure is a scary thing. It is a scary thing, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I feel like for me, when I fail, I learn a lot more about myself than when I succeeded. It teaches you how to improve. It teaches you how to change things for the next time. I love this topic so much, actually.
Okay. Can you tell me about tell me about one of your most notable failures and the lesson that came from it then? I'm sure there's only a couple to choose from. And no pressure. It doesn't have to be the biggest failure of all time. It can be something little. I'm just curious, to hear how you go through that process.
I'll just be like very general. If I failed an exam, you realize that you got to study more next time. And when you fail a test, you learn that you didn't prepare enough. Next time, you got to do better because you're not going to pass the class. You're going to have a bad GPA. It's going to translate into a lot of bad things. I want to hear an example from you. Well, I think about a better one.
Oh, you think about a better one?
Yeah.
An example of a time that I failed. I mean, I fail all the time, like literally all the time. My biggest thing with failure is the fear of what if is way bigger than the fear of failure for me personally, right? Like the fear of being embarrassed of starting a podcast is way bigger than that. Like, what if the podcast helps some people and does really well? And the fear of writing a book and like, I don't know what I'm doing and people are going to see it and I'm going to get judged for it is way less than the failure of than what if it works out. And so, for me, an example of failure is, I mean, this is like random, but like I can tell you, you and I went out last night and I was talking to somebody and I was like, oh, we should hang out sometime. And then they never responded to me, right? Like that's failure.
Yeah.
And so like, that's scary. The fear of like, what if I had asked them and they said yes, and then it turned into this awesome, cool experience, like whatever that experience is versus like, oh, I'm afraid they're going to say no.
Yeah. I remember that.
It was 24 hours ago.
Yeah, man. Really got me into thinking for right now, Nick.
I think you're one of those situations where you think it's like thinking about falling asleep and you can't fall asleep, or like trying to fall asleep,
Yeah.
That's all right. We'll move on. And then if you think of something, you can bring it up.
We'll bring back to it. Sounds good.
How do you, for failure, right? I definitely get this sometimes where because I try random things, hard things, new things all the time, like I fail a lot. And I definitely get discouraged at times, especially earlier on. Like, how do you stay from being unmotivated or like depressed because you keep failing? Like, how do you keep motivated through failure?
That's a great question. You're not going to know if you can succeed if you don't try. And failure is a part of that. Like, you're not going to make all the shots you don't take. You're not going to make any if you don't shoot. I feel like you just got to have a good head on your shoulders, stay optimistic. Sometimes that's not easy, especially when you're trying out new things. There's uncertainty.
I like to remind myself that the reward isn't what's the best part. Trying to get the reward is the best part. Meaning the process of starting a big podcast is actually more fulfilling than looking at my phone and going, oh, I got 1 million views, right?
Yeah.
And so I think part of the failure is like, oh, like I failed, but like I got a little closer. Or like I failed, but I tried.
Yeah, you tried.
I always have to remind myself that where like I get unmotivated and get kind of down because like, oh man, I gave it all I had and it didn't work out. Like I had the same thing happen again. And you're like, well, yes, but like you tried. And this is like not to get too deep, but I always like to think to myself of like, I want to be on my deathbed and be like, I gave it all I had. Like maybe some things worked out, some things didn't, but like I left it all on the table. And for me, like that sense of peace is awesome.
Yeah. Live life with no regrets.
With no regrets.
No regrets.
Absolutely no regrets. You're pretty confident. How does one get over the fear of failure? Right? Like, how do I take baby steps to like get over the fear? Because I want to go start that podcast. I want to talk to that person at the bar. I want to do this.
It all starts with trying. And then with time, you get comfortable, but you just have to stay positive. You have to stay optimistic. When you're trying new things, it's like nerve-wracking, and some people let that like nervousness stop them, prevent them from proceeding. And you just got to shoot your shot. No matter what it is, you just got to shoot it. Because like I said earlier, you're not going to make any shots. You don't want to decide not to do something and then later think about it and be like, wow, I really wish I did that. I've had multiple times in my life where I wish I did something. I was too nervous or scared of failing.
Yeah.
And now I just live in regret because of I wish I'd tried. I wish I'd did it. And I'll give an example of that. I was super skinny growing up and I loved football. I love football with all of my heart. I was a big soccer guy. I was a runner, but I was super skinny and I never gained weight for some reason. Now I can now, but I chose to do cross country and track in high school and I loved it. It was fun, but I really wish I played football. And that's a fail for me because I didn't try. I didn't think I would be able to handle being thrown around by 6'6", 320 lineman or a cornerback who's 6'2", 200, and I'm 5'11" and 150 pounds. Back then I was 110, so I was a twig. But yeah, I feel like also when you have those scenarios of life where you regret a lot, that also almost prevents you from, say, I had an opportunity to play football in the future and I was still skinny. I would totally go for it because I didn't in high school and because I didn't try. I really wish I tried. And I think the moral of the story is that when you think that you're going to fail, you have no idea. You just got to try. You just got to do it.
Yeah. I think the key for me in my life has been not thinking. The times when I did the things I was most scared of, I was never thinking.
You're just doing.
I was just doing.
Exactly.
I didn't think, I just did it. And it's a combination of when you get in those situations, don't think, just do.
Don't think, just do.
And then it's also a combination of putting yourself in more of those situations. And you do that by saying yes, right? Like I'm careful with my time. Like if I don't want to do something because I'm like a little nervous about it, I say yes, right? Like I didn't want to go out with you last night, but like I'm glad that I did because it was a good time. Yeah. But I didn't want to go with you because I was like nervous. I was like, oh, it's a whole thing. Like I'm going to like be social and then this and that. And I'm like, oh, but like I know I want to and I don't have a good time. And yeah, it's just the time.
Either. Yeah.
And like that's enough to get better every time. So like a few months from now, I'll be doing the scary thing 3/5 of the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
2/3, 3/5. I think you went down a little bit, but
no.
2/3.
Yeah, you might be right. No, well, you might be right. You might be right. I want to talk about something that you're really good at. Okay. And you may disagree with me, but I think you're really good at it, is emotional intelligence. How does emotional intelligence impact your life? That's a broad question. There's a lot of ways you can take that, but what are some of the ones that stand out?
I'm a very caring person and I love to support people. And I feel like for me, I'm able to read the room a lot or read a person. I feel like I could really tell when someone's like upset about something and they're hiding it, or they're scared or they're happy. And so I feel like I base the way I do things on people's emotions to either boost them up or keep them boosted and reciprocate energy so that they feel comforted. I feel like emotional intelligence is such an important thing. And not only for like relationships, but for honestly, literally every aspect of life. We're all people with emotions. And if you're not able to have a conversation with somebody and understand them, then they're going to feel not very comfortable around you. I'm curious on what you think about emotional intelligence.
What do I think about emotional intelligence?
Yeah.
I think it's the most important thing. A lot of studies show that your interpersonal skills are 85% of your professional success and your technical skills are 15%. And I think emotional intelligence is the biggest part of your interpersonal skills, right? Knowing what other people are thinking and feeling. I think more importantly, knowing the emotions that you're portraying, like how are people being receptive to you? And emotional intelligence is also just emotional maturity. If you want to grow, if you want to learn lessons quicker, if you want to feel more peaceful, you have to know how to interpret and process your own emotions. And that's a big part of emotional intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, where do you think you got it from?
Honestly, I feel like a lot of emotional intelligence comes from experiencing hardships, whether that might be a breakup or death of a loved one. I feel like when you feel those ups and downs, you're able to understand emotions more and understand other people. For me, I feel like it's been a lot about like breakups and family things. For me, I've built a lot of my emotional intelligence from relationships. And it doesn't have to be like with a girlfriend or a boyfriend, but like with friends, family. And that kind of also ties with failure too. Like relationships fail all the time and they allow you to grow a lot and learn about yourself. And when you're growing emotionally, your emotional intelligence is going to also grow and you're going to be more adaptive in situations where you may not have been before.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it's interesting too that I think I got my emotional intelligence in a different way. I think, I don't have the relationship experience that you have. Like I've been in relationships, but you've been in very long ones. I have not.
Hey.
And I think my emotional intelligence has just come from a lot of reflection. I read a lot.
Yeah.
I think a lot. I just sit and think and reflect a lot. And so just a lot of time with myself is where I think I got mine. And it's really interesting how it can come from anywhere. But I think the biggest part is something has to make you think.
Yeah.
For you, that's been relationships. For me, that's just been like me wanting to grow and like personal stuff.
When you're in a relationship or say you get out of a relationship, there's a lot of self-reflection and thinking. For me, I love to self-reflect after a breakup. I feel like I'm not one to move on fast. I like to really think about the situation and improve myself so that I can be better for me next time and for the other person as well.
Yeah.
For me, with relationships, when you're around somebody so long and all of a sudden they're not there anymore, you really have to adapt to being your percent with yourself and not like with someone else as your other half. And that requires a lot of self-reflection and thinking and improving too. It's not all bad. People think breakups are like really hard and they are really hard, but I think of them more positively than I do negatively because what I get out of it is worth it, in my opinion. Ultimately, you learn so much about yourself and that improves your emotional intelligence.
Do you think there's anything most people get wrong about emotional intelligence and specifically young men?
Young men. I feel like a lot of young men or men in general, actually, they like to mask their emotions and hide them. As you grow, to feel comfortable and accepted by other people, you're going to have to be vulnerable about getting your emotions out. And that's hard. It's really hard. I feel like a lot of men have grown up in a way where they don't want other people to view them as weak, vulnerable, or emotional. And that's totally valid. But I just think later in life that causes problems. And for me, that has given me issues as well. Hiding my feelings and thinking, oh, I'll just be fine. I'll be all right. But it's really important to talk to somebody about emotions, whether that's a friend, family member, a random person. It's important to feel heard and not just gatekeeping your emotions yourself.
Something I can start doing today to improve my emotional intelligence.
Amazing question. I feel like, honestly, communication. I feel like you just got to talk to people, read them. Actually, this is a better answer. I like to put myself in other people's shoes a lot. Like when they're experiencing hardships, and it enables me to appreciate where I'm at, but I'm also able to like be supportive for other people if I'm able to understand what they're feeling like. So I feel like putting yourself in other people's shoes and seeing what it's like to live their life. And it's a great question.
I agree. I mean, your answer now. That's a great question. Cameron, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
We have a closing tradition on this podcast, which comes directly from my favorite show, The Diary of a CEO.
Diary of a CEO.
The Diary of a CEO.
Yeah.
In which the last guest leaves a question for the next guest,
All right.
not knowing whom they're leaving the question for. And the question that has been left for you is, are you who you want to be yet?
Wow. I would say yes. For a long time, I've always been like, I do not like who I am or like where things are heading in my life. I love myself and I love everything around me. And I'm confident about who I want to be and who I am now. And I will just try hard to keep that mindset and live life. And that's a great question. I want to hear your answer.
Am I who I want to be yet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. I feel like it's really important to have that confidence and mentality because it sounds like a big ego thing, but it's not. It's really not. If you are super happy with where you are in life and you're super happy with yourself, then I feel like you're just living life to the fullest and you're able to live life with no regrets.
Yeah. To answer that question, when we say yes, it doesn't mean we have everything that we want.
No.
It means we are who we are and we like where we're going.
We're on the right track.
We like where we're going.
We're happy with what we have right now.
Yeah. Cameron, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.